Welcome to Fall Rise Give, a space where we invite you to dig into the real cause of your suffering, looking at opportunities for growth with a change in your beliefs, thoughts, and actions so you can be your true self and be inspired. Join us as we explore life's ups and downs and navigate the twists and turns, sharing stories of resilience, hope, and the transformative power of giving back. Whether you're looking for a change, in recovery, or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your go-to for candid conversations, raw emotions, and a whole lot of heart. Tune in and discover how to fall, rise, and give back on life's extraordinary journey. Welcome to another edition of Fall Rise Give, turning struggles into opportunities by being your true self and help others. How you doing? I'm Bartender Bob. I'm an ally trying to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. I do have some family in recovery. Kumar, of course, is my co-host. And this week, we're proud to bring in Dr. J. Julius. Thanks a lot for being on with us, Harold.
Great. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So let's talk a little bit about who is Harold Jonas.
That's a great open question. So quick history. I'm a licensed professional here in South Florida where I live. I'm in the recovery capital of the country, which was we were just designated that in the mid 2000s, right after the turn, and that was notified there in the New York Times article. So we were like the hub of destination rehab, and this is where I've been. So way back in 1987, I was afforded an opportunity to come here. I was generously afforded the opportunity to get off a plane while I was still on methadone. And never look back. So I got on a plane from Philadelphia one October afternoon, actually it was evening, and landed in West Palm Beach, and it was picked up by my father. Went into a treatment center and subsequently 3 more behind that until I really got a little bit of a foundation of drug-free living for the first time in 20 years, which is, I was 33 years old in treatment for the first birthday clean and have been there ever since. Like I dug in and saw an opportunity to really turn my life around and learn how to become an adult, right? Finally, and then that's the beginning of the journey. So that's a start.
How did you become a doctor as far as that's concerned? How did you go through the education, and how did you find that passion to take yourself and become the recovery expert that you are today?
I got, again, drug-free for the first time ever in 1987. And what recovery offers to all of us is the opportunity for lost dreams to be reawakened. And one of the dreams that I had and one of the goals I had started on and never fulfilled was getting a master's degree. So in 1989, I enrolled in my first, post-bachelor's program. I enrolled in this master's program, and it's at Antioch University. So it was the University Without Walls. So I was like 34, 35 years old. I already had 3 kids. I had a failed marriage, 3 failed businesses behind me, nothing but failure and shame. But this was something that was in front of me. So I was going forward, enrolled into a program that was supposed to be 2 years, but took 5. And then 2 more years post-grad to get a license. So this is going along. And in order to get real credibility, because this is what the industry I'm in, requires is credentials. I thought to get more credibility, I would pursue a PhD in my 40s, which I subsequently did do. Now I had 5 kids, 3 businesses, and I was really determined and persistent to get this because when you say doctor to somebody, they freaking pick up the phone and they call you back. And it's just what the society and culture is. And I had developed this product, and I said, well, I need this doctorate to really give it credibility and lend credence to it. It was called Sobr Systems. It was a mobile app for accountability. And that was one of my ventures. So I said, well, if I have the doctor that developed this thing, it'll just take off and change the industry and change the world, and it will be a change agent, And I was too far ahead of the curve because it was rudimentary. It was really, really designed and people don't want to be accountable. That's what I learned. And the industry that it was designed to impact doesn't really want this because if people get better, they're not coming back. And this was pre-fentanyl. This was pre-fentanyl before they leave and die. There was still a revolving door of treatment, right? They go out at the end, they go to a halfway house, they relapse, they come back. or go to another place. And so this app was designed to minimize that or to reduce that risk by calling them up ahead of time and saying, hey, how you doing? Because the app would alert you.
Was that your first venture outside? I know you had 3 failed businesses before.
Yeah.
You had fallen before. And like we like to say here, after the fall comes the rise. So you kind of risen, you got your doctorate, and now you're starting to fly a little bit, and you got this app.
Yeah.
And but the main theme for you as who you are as Harold was you really wanted to make a difference in people's lives, and you felt that these systems.
Yeah, still do. I started the first directory. Well, it depends on who you're talking to. We started an online directory in 2000, an online directory of the treatment industry, so they could then promote their products and services to the moms who were shopping for their loved ones, usually the mom, sister, wife, aunt, for their loved ones, because men are overrepresented in treatment. So we created this directory called Sobr.com. So I ran that website for 22 years, and I developed it. And it was one of the first ones. We helped people. We did websites. We did all the full service stuff. So we had a really successful run with that. But again, advertising is really not, there's a contribution to it, but not really the kind that really touches your heart. So all the while, I'm still seeing clients and developing my clinical skills. So it's all going parallel. So I sold that website, and I started this one, which is a lifestyle brand now, Sobr Life. And that's really, the next big venture. But there's been nothing but attempts to continue to make contributions, because that's what we're supposed to do as people in recovery. You stop being takers and victims and really contribute. That's the idea.
How about some struggles, doctor? What kind of struggles did you deal with, being a former addict, going ahead and, trying to help people, steer people into their sobriety?
Well, the frustration, for me as a professional, right, when you're working with clients and they relapse and they die. I think for me, I had one recently, just not long ago, 34 years old, that just was, selling a pile of crap to himself and his family and the people in the community, and he subsequently overdosed and died. That was the most recent, really big struggle, because as much as you don't want to personalize that, you go and question, like, what could I have done differently to help have not had that happen. I've been around a lot of loss, in not just professionally, but in my own family as a result of addiction or people just being people. I don't know if Gabe shared or if he even knew to share. I lost my 27-year-old son, who was in and out of drug treatment and in and out of jail as a result of a number of different factors. One of them, most importantly, was not listening, right, to people that had been around a little bit. I mean, his dad's a fucking doctor. You'd think I would know something about something, but I wasn't the messenger for him. So we lost him, and then subsequently we lost his mom, my wife, in 2022. So those are some real significant episodes in my life, really stood me up, as far as what's important in my value system when you're a grieving parent, because it's a forever.
So was it hard to go on and to continue your sobriety after the fact that you lost your son and your wife at the same, in that short period of time?
No, look, your recovery is a personal choice. So for me, and what I suggest to people, because again, we don't give advice, right? But they taught us, and we were all taught the same thing. If you make the same decision every morning to not use no matter what, because life shows up, right? They tell you life shows up, and this is part of life, of shit happening and curveballs coming. I mean, the most recent curveball that came was Wednesday. Today's Sunday. So Wednesday, my significant other's daughter was attacked by a pit bull. And she was, right, both of her arms are just chewed up because the dog being a dog,
Right.
And the officer that responded, fortunately, somebody was able to call before she was completely mangled. They had to shoot the dog 3 times. That's how powerful these animals are for it to let go. And so this is one of those curveballs where you just kind of shake your head and where's reality here to this? This is a beautiful young woman, 30 years old, and now forever altered. And as is her mom, now she has to, she not has to, but she's choosing to stop and go take care of her daughter. And we don't even know what the outcome is yet. It's too early to determine. So it impacts. There's that ripple effect, for all of this stuff, for all of us, like even to you guys, because I can see it on your face. Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah. No, we're all connected. And the more people go into the program or go into spirituality and go into, consciousness, and we talk sometimes about that deep stuff, or I talk about that deep stuff, we're also connected. And as I was listening to a guy yesterday on the Gaia channel. I don't know if you ever watched the Gaia channel. It's like a Netflix for New Age stuff. And he's saying that even if a rose that blooms and people see and smell it, you can feel the energy of the rose.
Mm-hmm.
But even if the rose is on a mountaintop and you can't see it or you can feel it, the rose still has an effect on people and the world. And we have an effect. We're also interconnected with consciousness. We have a little particle of God in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that what we see and how we're connected from high school for Bob and I, and for you now, and hopefully we'll be friends moving forward. We're all interconnected. And the human part of it is why we're here. Consciousness brought us together in this Zoom world of podcasting. But yeah, I mean, we can definitely feel your emotions and feel the tough stuff that you've gone through. And power to you to go out there and keep staying positive and looking for the next way to help someone else. That's the beauty of life.
Well, it's a being of service in the channel for them. So just yesterday, we did a ketamine intervention in the office with a client. So there's a company in Colorado that assesses people and they send medicine to people. And he had his breakthrough that he needed, right, for him. So it was a 2-hour episode and it was very positive. And what we do as therapists in that environment is just hold space for somebody, right? Because they're got a blindfold on and they got a headset on and they're in their world. And our job is to keep them safe and not feed them information while they're there and impart things and make it my agenda, because in this case it was a guy, his agenda. And it's just fantastic the way things are moving in such a rapid direction with the introduction of psychedelics in behavioral health now, which is the next big avenue, because the shit that's been going on is just like taking too long and too expensive and not working, for people that need it. So that's the direction I'm moving in later in my career. I can do that now and take more calculated risks than I could when I had 5 kids I was raising.
Right.
Because you can't lose your license when you're younger. Now it's different.
We actually got a high school buddy, Bob and I, who's a medical doctor out of D.C. And if you ever want to get connected with him, he's getting into the psychedelics and the microdosing and really doing real therapy stuff.
Great.
Why can't I think of his name, Bob? He moved to Alabama after 9th grade.
I don't remember. That doesn't ring a bell to me.
Yeah, he came out to Seattle for a conference on psychedelics a couple of months ago.
Uh-huh.
There was a big conference in Seattle on it, and then I'll connect you with him, Doctor, just so you guys can at least because he's an MD and he's an expert in this area now.
There's a lot of states that are way more open than where I'm in Florida, where they're able to prescribe and administer. And where I'm at, they have to self-administer. I'm not a nurse, so I'm not allowed to administer. And it's all fine, but because getting the end result is all that really matters. But that's the direction the industry is going to be moving in, with more retreats and people doing things that are more supervised and clinically appropriate and not this recreational crazy shit that I grew up in. Because when I was, doing stuff in the 70s, it was a free-for-all, right? I mean, it was just a free-for-all.
Yeah. I got buddies who do it, and he's like founder of one of the ayahuasca temples out here.
Yeah.
They have an ayahuasca temple.
They're not safe.
Bob, I don't know. Have you learned much about the ayahuasca or psychedelics at all, Bob? Where you are in the Midwest?
No, but I did watch the Aaron Rodgers thing on Netflix, and he's kind of getting into that. And I mean, that seemed kind of weird. I mean, that's a little bit off my radar. You know what I mean? That's a little bit out there, I think.
He's a really interesting guy, that Aaron Rodgers, that is not hesitant to explore things, and plus he throws a really good football. So
he does.
Yeah, I mean, but he locked himself in a room for 7 days. It was a quiet meditation. I mean, I have a friend of mine that went to Thailand and was up in a cave for 2 weeks. And when he came back back to the States, he wound up getting married after being a bachelor his whole life. So
Wow.
whatever was going on, and then because we did this whole thing together, and then of course when the marriage isn't going good, he calls me up and he says it's all my fault, for that kind of thing. But yet at 71 years old, he's real happy he has her in his life.
Yeah, it's amazing how you find love at 71. I can't believe it. I have a question for you, Doctor. Have you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Oh, sure. Joe's
Okay.
A really, really brilliant guy and his podcast is great, and the information he puts out there. People, my significant other really swears by a lot of the stuff he shares. So
the reason I bring it up, and we're talking about psychedelics and altering mindsets, right? It's your brain chemicals that you can alter, and the brain has a bunch of hormones, and you can. I was watching a series. I forgot what it's called, like Rewired, I think it's called. Or you can watch it on YouTube, Bob, as well, or anybody else who's out there. You don't have to go to Gaia. Rewired by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And why I bring it up is he talks about a process of getting the brain when we're working through the normal life, we're working through the beta waves, right? Normal rational thought. And then once we calm down and we're in that sleep state, waking up early in the morning or just about to go to sleep, we're in the alpha waves. And then if you get to real meditation, we get into theta waves, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when the subconscious starts to mingle with the conscious, and you can actually put imprints on there through visualization and things like that. And then at the end of his thing, then he talks about these energy centers. And if you listen to our podcast or have seen our website, we talked about the chakra energy centers. And it's kind of what I learned 17, 19 years ago through meditation, is the chakra systems. And what he talks about is at the very end, it is meditation exercise on how to awaken, how to change your brain chemicals like a psychedelic can.
Yeah.
But through meditation. Mm-hmm. And then he brings up at the last minute, that's called Awaken the Kundalini. And I'm just like, here he's got all this modern science research, and then it goes back to an ancient Hindu process of meditation and really getting the body and the chakras opened up is really what that is. He lives in Seattle. I have to get to know him at some point and talk to him about it. But I have a little different view. Instead of breaking the Kundalini from that perspective, I've taken the principles from things like the Attitude Adjustment Program and modern Christian beliefs, the mystic part of it, and the Hindu and the Buddhist principles, and through meditation come up with ways to get the chakras to open up from top down.
Okay.
And from top down, it's the more spiritual nature. You can actually calm your body down and to be able to adjust your mindset right off the bat through meditation. So anyway, that's kind of the mindset shifting thing that we talk about here. But I just brought that up not as a sales pitch for us. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about you can actually alter your brain chemicals through meditation.
Yeah.
And I believe you can do that. And that's kind of what I preach in my little book and the little podcast thing that we talked about the chakras and the meditation. But yeah, so psychedelics and or brain chemicals, even like drugs that give you dopamine or serotonin and all of that stuff can alter the brain in such a way.
But again, the motivation for that individual has to come from within. Ultimately, because if it comes externally, it's different. So when Jay, my son, had his incident in 2018, it was suggested strongly by people that care about me that I look at meditation as a way to cope. I took up transcendental meditation at that time. And I would say that it probably saved what was left of my life because I was so angry and enraged about the injustice of having been robbed as a dad and his behavior and all the things that went with that incident. And I practice still today, in that early morning and late afternoon. I'm very disciplined about it because, again, it's been very helpful and very effective. And then there's all the other things that go with rewiring the brain and the scripts that are inside of us and the self-talk and all of that. And there's just a lot going on in the center where I'm at. We're like a little Sedona in a lot of areas. There's a couple of things that happen here in Delray. There's a community of people that, just this morning, we have a little market that's free in the community square, and there must have been about 60 people going to a free yoga spiritual meditation class at 9 o'clock this morning.
Wow.
And they were just all walking with their mats, and they're ready, and men and women, children, everybody's there. And I'm like, I love living here because it's outside. They're all not.
Yeah.
It's outside. It's sunny out. It's gorgeous, and everybody's smiling and having a good time. And so there's a lot of good energy as a result
Right.
of these practices. That's what's important. And I was going to start a podcast, about the failures that we all experience and the resilience that we show, getting up and doing it again. And what is that old saying? Fall down 7 times, get up 8. Something of that nature. And life's going to show up. And it's just brutal sometimes. Sometimes you just coping with whatever that reality is the most critical thing.
We actually had a guest on a couple of months ago. His book was called Celebrating Failure. Ralph Heath, if you were looking for a good book to read on that, Celebrating Failure by Ralph Heath. What motivated you to start your lifestyle brand, Sobr Life? Was it after the death of your son, or was it prior to that?
It was after the sale of Sobr.com. So there was a small gap between the sale of Sobr.com. I had sold it once and bought it back and did it again. And then I sold it again, right, in 2023 to a guy that's really, really into that particular vertical on the internet. And he's really good at it, and let him have it and run hard. And so I'm sitting there, and, I have my practice, and I'm not one to, I don't know, there weren't enough balls in the air for me. So it just came to me, and it wasn't like it was started as a merchandising brand. We were selling shirts and hats and merchandise because we were just playing around, the family and I talking about, what are you going to do next, Dad? I'm close with the kids here. I have adult children here and grandchildren. And I don't know. I'm thinking about this. And they say, yeah, well, we should have a trucker hat. We started with a hat, so we could tell people that it's Sobr Life. And then one day, well, we should have our own water. So I started this water brand. Wait, it looks like this. I don't know if you can see that one up there.
Yeah.
The Sobr Life water, which is available on Amazon. So, here's actually it looks better like this. So that was an input, and we know that water is a very critical thing for us as people to keep us healthy, to hydrate. We have artisan well water, kind of similar to Fiji on that level of quality. No additives, blah, blah, blah. And again, it's just wet. And it was kind of following that whole joke of liquid death, because that whole brand started as an advertising joke. And it's a great origin story, and it went from zero to like $1 billion. So imagine having $1 billion revenue stream that you can really impact society with, right? That's how delusional I can make myself of, like, I'm going to create something that's going to generate enough money to actually not just give $5 to a homeless person, but make an impact in the community or in a general cultural shift, and people talking about the things that are important, like this conversation, drug abuse, opportunities for solutions. You'll hear politics, you'll hear tension, you'll hear woe is me stories, but not like, let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about my kid that's overdosing in the bedroom. Let's talk about that, because there's so much stigma surrounding it. Because the whole mission of the company is to end stigma, is to really, really drown out the stigma of mental illness, mental problems, and addiction, because we don't talk about it. We just throw money at it or throw people in jail. That's what we do. And that hasn't been effective.
What's interesting is that's one spectrum where it's deadly and super bad in the sense of physically it can kill you, right? And then there's spectrum all the way through to the other side where a casual drinker does a bunch of stupid stuff on the weekends and kind of goes out, gets drunk, and maybe kills somebody in a simple little thing, or just wants to quit because they want to be inspired or want to lose weight or whatever. Yeah. And there's a whole spectrum in between. And that sober, curious person has a problem, is not living the life of their dreams. It's like that book, A New Pair of Glasses. You're basically dead already. Yeah. Unless you put on a whole new life thing. It's when you become sober, your whole idea of what do I do with my time? Yeah. Now I got to get into my head. Now I got to get inspired about life. That's what it does. That's what it did for me. And, I wasn't a deadly case. I call myself the mainstream drunk in that way. Uh-huh. But But there's a whole spectrum of people that we can help. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned you wanted to start a podcast on falling, basically, and helping people rise, overcoming their failures in a way. So whatever happened to that? Did you ever think about that again? Or how did you?
Well, I went in the podcast space a couple of years back called Sobr Podcast, sobrpodcast.com. And I had a host and it was really successful. But again, we couldn't make the impact and get the listeners, and it was really a money pit for me financially because I was. I try to start things, and I'm relatively very creative that are not attached to me personally, right? Because I'm going to be transient, I'm going to die, and I want it to live on. So I try to detach myself from my identity to the product, which is part of the dilemma I'm struggling with right now. For instance, with the water, we don't have a face that people can associate the product with. And I don't think people buy stuff from old gray bearded people. They buy it from young, pretty women, more likely, because that's just the way life is in our country. So again, I'm always on the search for that talent and that person to get through this particular challenge. But it's always about being of service and helping, because that's the whole idea. Is I started this economy. So back in the original project was we wanted to do what's called contingency management and reward people for reporting their sobriety. They didn't have to prove it, because in the steps there's no proof. You just tell me you're sober, you're sober. So the whole concept was, if you check in every day, you're going to get rewarded with money. We're going to give you money to tell us this, right? And so we didn't have any money, so we created a cryptocurrency called Sobr Coin. So we were going to give them coins, and then with the coins, they could buy coaching, they could buy training to be a coach, they could at that time buy housing that I had. So that was the same year that Jay died, so I kind of lost interest because I got numb to shit and I didn't do such a good job. So I revised it during COVID, and we're trying to make a run at it again. It's on soberlife.com at the top. You can join the community and earn your Sobr coin by answering these questions. So it's this whole little Lost Boys economy that's closed. And if it grows, then we can contact detoxes and halfway houses to accept these coins. That's the vision.
Okay.
Because in California, they passed a law. I don't know if you know that, right? They passed a law that Gavin Newsom, they're giving people real money to not smoke meth.
Wow.
Up to $300 a week. They have a contingency management program as law that any county health department can submit a program to the governor and get approval if they structure it correctly. And they know that this stuff works. We all know it works clinically because it's been proven over and over again that if you reward people for behavioral change, they'll do it. And hopefully they'll get a new norm, right? They'll get a new norm and move in that direction. But often the money runs out before that new norm can sink, right? That's why treatment has to be a year, because it takes at least that long for people to really evolve just enough to really buy in all the way. No reservation, right? That's what happened for you, no reservation. And it's only, and so anyway, that's the big picture. And I hope it can happen before,
Let me ask you a little bit about motivation. What keeps you motivated right now and keeping you on the path to being clean, sober, and running a business to help other people to become clean and sober?
I'm not sure what my purpose would be otherwise. So I got steered in this direction early in recovery to work in a detox center, and it just was a natural fit for me. So I perceive my bachelor's degree is in theater, in live theater, which I really thought was a change agent for the population, because before cinema, it was the change agent, right? I was at the Acropolis last year. I was at the Acropolis, and that's where they used to do orator. That was the Facebook of the time, and I was like, I cried. I was like crying. I was like, I can't believe I'm here. So that's what I see. That's the motivation, is that we can impact change if we entertain people enough, because that's what they're doing. If you entertain them enough, you can actually get messages in. So we're trying to create that. That's the motivation, is find this magic sauce that's going to buy people into wellness, not sobriety, the way the treatment center defines sobriety, like abstinence. It's really about a path of wellness and doing your best, however you achieve that, right? Because who were we, right? Other than just other people.
It sounds like you've had an amazing time, some really exciting, like you said, joyful times with the tears when you go to the Acropolis. Is there any funny moments in sobriety? Anything that stands out as like, God, that had you cracking or laugh or anything like that?
I grew up on the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy. I'm that old to remember slapstick comedy. So if you see somebody slip on a banana peel, one person's going to run to their aid and, oh my God, are you okay? And the other person's going to be sitting in the corner laughing at hysterical how funny it was. So it's the same side of the same coin, right? So when you walk into I used to own a motel. It was not something I woke up and wanted to do, but it was a real estate play. And so I would go to the room to check people out, and because they're past time, and they would be dead. They would be just dead. And I'm like, what? And I just what? And so it depended how I wanted to view that, because that's what the chemicals do, right? It's how you want to change your perception, because the information is the same. It's how you want to view it. So my perception sometimes would be one of anger and rage and disruption. And the other times I was thinking, you got to be freaking kidding me. Can't you put some clothes on? I was just telling somebody, this one girl was just face down on the bed with nothing on and just not breathing. And I'm like, good, you just ruined my day. It was all for what? We provided we were like almost a dumping ground for the halfway house people that relapsed. That's what we were known as, is the place of safety for people to come when because we were an abundance level of halfway houses in my town. And so people would be non-compliant because that's what addicts do. And they would bring them to us and they would have a safe place and they would just do what people do. And sometimes it would just be on the point of absurdity of the shit that I've seen. So she stabbed her husband, right, with the kitchen knife. She stabbed her husband. The white walls are covered with blood. And now they're still together 10 years later. And, hey, Jonas, how are you? And my person I'm with is, how do they stay together? I said, that's what they call love.
How would you like to be known?
If I die tomorrow or this afternoon, I will know I've made a contribution to the best of my ability. That's how I would like to be known, as somebody that did their best pretty much all day, every day, to be of service and to bring it all at every opportunity. So, I don't know if that's the answer that is to your question or.
No, I think that's really who it is. Somebody who wanted to make a contribution to the best of his abilities.
Yeah.
That's really the essence of who you are. Since you're what we call a serial entrepreneur in the business, you start companies and start projects all the time. What's your advice to somebody who's starting a new venture or starting a new thing, or anybody out there in the blogosphere or the podcast sphere? What would your advice be to somebody who's starting a new business and a new venture?
There's going to be naysayers, right? And they're going to pop your bubble. And if you believe in your project enough, just keep pushing ahead. And there's going to be a lot of challenges. Just don't quit. I mean, that was what I was known for. Before I got in recovery, I quit. I failed. And I would come up with another idea and try again. But I quit on myself, right? I quit on myself and let other people influence my decisions. And I kind of moved away from that. And it can get perceived sometimes. I can be really perceived as being arrogant because I get stuck in an idea. And sometimes that's probably true. And other times it may not be an accurate perception. But I really believe in what we're doing currently. Look, in COVID, we had all that time on our hands. I don't have one so I came up with this little light that you could put on yourself that said stand back. I called it alarm. It was an alarm light because my mother-in-law doesn't talk very loud, so she couldn't tell people to stay 6 feet away. So I got this idea of a light that would let people know she was there. So everybody said, this is a great idea, but COVID's going to get cured before it ever hits the market.
Yeah.
So there was another $10,000 down the drain. I got bags of lights in my storage area and marketing and all this stuff. We called it Space Alarm. And I had a website. I had a trademark, all this crap, and I'm like, this is going to, because who knew, right? I said, what if? What if it doesn't get cured? And what if they don't come up with it? What if? And so, and I believed in it and ran it out because there was so much time. I was doing therapy with people in Japan. because there was no holds where we could do service at that time. So we were like all of us doing work with people wherever we wanted. Very great experience, but that's what I would suggest. Stay with it.
I love that idea. Actually, I think you still could probably put those out and make some money on them. Dr. J, how do we find out more about Sobr Life?
www.soberlife.com. SOBRLIFE. There's no E in Sobr Life. Okay, so that's a disclaimer. And then if you want to support the project, you go to Amazon and buy Sobr Life water. And we have like merchandise on the site, and we have a blog post that y'all can put up a blog post. We'll put that up. We have an events calendar. We have places that people can go for, again, leisure time without drugs. That's a really hard thing for people to do. How do I have fun in recovery? So we're trying to really help that along. I had a karaoke bar for a while where we would just do karaoke and get people out of their inhibitions and dance and sing and have a good time. And it was a blast. Didn't make any money. But the roof fell in. I had to sell the building. Shit. Yeah. The tiles fell down on people. I was like, shit. This ain't a good look.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
So you went from being a quitter to do not quit. You got this no quit in you, right? That's what you just keep along with. Hey, idea doesn't work. It doesn't matter. Just a lesson. You just keep going forward, right? Just no quit.
Yeah. What do I need to learn about me, even though I'm not getting the results I would dream about? What do I need to learn, and staying open to being teachable, which is one of the things I've learned, that I was not very teachable before recovery, before I stopped using, that was the thing, So being teachable and being open-minded and practicing the principles that we're taught and staying with it. But most importantly, don't take yourself too seriously. That's the other thing. You can't do that or you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall, Rise, Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall, Rise, Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.